Today's video is about the equipment that I use to make my YouTube videos. I've got cameras, lenses, microphones, tripods. I have a slider, something special that I use that really makes a unique quality to my videos. And also a laptop, monitor, and then all those peripherals like cables and light stands, lighting equipment, SD card, all of that stuff. So stay tuned. One thing that's not on the table is my Sony video camera. That's what I'm using to record it. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. My second camera is a Canon. I have a Canon 70D. The Canon 70D is nice because it has interchangeable lenses. What I have on it right now is a zoom lens. This is a 70 to 260, really long lens, and it makes some great second camera stuff where I can have my face completely in focus and the background is all blown out, and so that the eye will focus on the subject. So I'll edit in some video with that. Interchangeable lens. I have a lot of different lenses I can put on here. I have some vintage lenses that I use sometimes. This is a vintage lens. You have this slide out viewfinder, which I really like because you can see yourself when you're filming. That's a big plus, and this one rotates all around, does all kinds of neat tricks. The thing about using a DSLR is the audio with the built-in mic is really bad, very bad. That's no good. So you have to add on another mic. So I used to use a Rode mic, but I sold it. Now I'm using my Sony for my audio. So when I use this is like a second camera, so I don't use any audio out of this. But if you're using one of these, you're going to have to get a mic. The Rode mics are very popular. Made in Australia. Did you know that? I have a set of wireless lavaliers. I've used those a few times. Sometimes the wireless signal cuts out and then you have some gaps in your audio, which is no fun at all. Now let's talk about microphones some more. This is my main mic that I use. It's a Sony. It's a really nice microphone. XLR plugs right into my camera. I have a long cable hooked up over there to the video camera. I have another mic that I used to use a lot. Recently haven't been using it too much. This is AKG, really heavy, nice mic. I was using it for kind of studio situations. Lately I've been out walking around interviewing people, so I like this mic. Microphones are important. Batteries are important. So that Sony has nice big batteries, and the Sony batteries are made very well, and also there's many other products that you can power using a Sony. Have a really nice charger. This will charge 2 at a time. It has readouts here showing what's going on with your charging. Laptop's very important. I ended up getting a Dell XPS 13. It has 16 gigabytes of RAM. I like it because it's small and lightweight, and it has very accurate colors. So peripherals are important. Here's a peripheral. It's a rubber band. Why do I use a rubber band? The tripod has a fluid head. Fluid head means has a long handle on it and you have some leverage to slowly move. And when I move from side to side, I put this rubber band on, so when I'm going to pull on that handle, it's going to gradually move it. And this rubber band's a neat trick. Not a real expensive piece of equipment, but very useful. When I first started getting serious about video, I was using a DSLR, but I switched over to the Sony Nx100 as my main camera when I realized that a DSLR needs many add-ons. Nx100 already has a built-in preamp. It has audio controls, it has phantom power, 2 XLR jacks, it has 3 ND filters built right in. The lens has a 12x zoom, and the zoom has a rocker switch, which is really nice. And it has the flip-out viewfinder, which I use a lot. Sony camera also has a remote. This is pretty neat because when I'm done with this clip, I'm going to hit the little red button and we'll pause. When I'm shopping for new camera equipment, sometimes I go to eBay and buy stuff. This Sony camera that I'm using right now, I bought that on eBay. I got a really good deal on it. A lot of my other stuff I have bought from B&H. Why do I like B&H? They have a really good website. When you go on there, you can look at the equipment. You can see a bunch of different photos of it. You can read all kinds of reviews. And they also have fast shipping, and I just love it. I have a lot of neat equipment, but you know what? I want to talk about equipment a little bit too. You have to be aware of gear acquisition syndrome, because you can start buying and buying and buying, and you have all this equipment. You just end up having too much equipment, and sometimes you're hauling out all this stuff and it slows you down and you might miss some action because you're fiddling around with equipment. So I'll just warn you about gear acquisition syndrome. So what else do I have? A big case to carry everything around. That camera will fit in here. A lot of stuff will fit inside of this case. Something else important is my headphones. When I'm over there recording, I'm listening in. so I can hear what's going on. And if the mic drops, or if there's noise in the background from birds or a Harley Davidson going by with loud pipes, I can pick it up and know that I have to redo. So these are important too. This is Behringer, pretty nice. You know, I didn't go all out spending a big pile of money on it, but they're useful, they get the job done. One piece of equipment that I got about 3 years ago is a slider. I researched the sliders a little bit before I bought this one. There are some that are very expensive, and there are some that are cheap with no motor on it. I got a motorized slider from GVM. The battery it uses, they have their own battery, but I can also pop a Sony battery on there and it'll power it. They handheld control. You got the off and on, and once you got it turned on, then you can select if you want to do time lapse or video, and then you can select your speed. You can move at a speed from 1 to 100. And I usually shoot things a few different ways with different speeds, and then you can move to the right, you can move to the left. It also has some adjustments where you can adjust the middle rail, and you can have it so that as it moves along, it will stay right on the center. Could you repeat that? It will stay centered on the object. Or you can turn it the other direction and it'll be facing outward and moving as it goes. So I've had a lot of fun using the slider. So the slider gives me some beautiful footage. This is cinematic footage because the camera is moving at a nice, smooth motion. And when you watch my videos, a lot of the videos feature footage shot with that slider. It's so beautiful. So even today I was shooting some right behind me. I have some morning glory vines growing with all the flowers on them, and it's just so beautiful the way the camera moves. So I would really recommend getting a slider and improving the quality of your work. One thing I don't like about that laptop is they've switched them over to the USB-C connectors. It's this little tiny connector. So when you want to plug in a bunch of stuff, your charger, and you want to plug in external hard drive, pretty soon you're running out of connectors. So I bought these replicators. This one went bad, so I bought another one. I bought this one, and that one went bad. So I just recently bought my third one. The third one hasn't gone bad yet, and the third one also has a card reader in it, which I really like, having the card reader connected to that. But this is kind of a weak little thing. This little USB-C is very easily gets bent, and then it doesn't function properly, and it gives you a lot of grief. It's a 13-inch, so it's a tiny little screen. So usually I will connect it to a nice big monitor. I have a BenQ monitor, and I paid several $100s for that. But the reason I got that was the bigger screen. For when you're editing, you need a lot more room. And the BenQ monitor also has accurate colors. The external hard drive that I have is 1 terabyte, and you need a lot. You know, video files take up a lot of room. And let's talk about the SD cards. SD card is so important. It's a little tiny thing, and maybe you've had this experience. I had one where I drove a few miles out to do a special shoot on a cold Saturday, got out there, and the camera didn't have the SD card in it, and so I had to drive back home. So what I did after that is I got an extra one and kept it in the glove box in my car. So if that ever happens again, I'm going to have one. But SD cards are so important, and they're expensive. Lighting is a really important part of your video, and I have a lot of different lights that I use. This is a softbox. I bought this about maybe 8 or 10 years ago for still photography, but it works for video too. Inside there are some fluorescent bulbs, and you got switches here. There's 4. You can turn on 2 at a time or all 4. And I use this setup down in my little basement studio. I have another light that's interesting too. When I bought my video camera, I bought it from somebody on eBay. This light was in there. Very interesting light. So it's got an on and off switch right here. There it is. And it goes with your shoe right onto your camera. It has some adjustments like this, and also a yellow filter on there so you can adjust the color temperature of your light. And look at that. That famous Sony battery powers this. It's got a switch here where you can, like a rheostat, where you can lighten or darken. So I've only used this a few times. One more light I'm going to show you. I bought this last winter. This has an app to control it. It has all different colors that you can adjust it to. and it's got a mounting thing here. What I found out recently was it fits perfectly on my microphone stand. And I was using this in my basement studio. This was on one side, that was on the other side. This is a pretty neat light. It's LED and doesn't use much electricity. So lighting is very important. Did you ever hear about camera money? I have camera money. What's the camera money? It's money that I made using my camera or selling cameras, and that money goes to buy more cameras and camera equipment. The Sony camera that I'm using right now, that was obtained because I was selling vintage cameras on eBay. And when I bought a fancy laptop, that came from selling cameras on eBay. So right now I'm not doing any selling on eBay, but that's where I got a lot of stuff. That's where I got my camera money. It's not ever that my kids have to go hungry because I had to go get a new camera. I'm pretty happy with the equipment that I have for shooting videos now. Some things that I'm thinking about getting in the future is maybe investing some money to get a GoPro. I was thinking about a GorillaPod, but I've been getting along fine without it. I was thinking about getting a field monitor too. Right now I'm looking at myself on the flip out screen, but if I had a field monitor, those are 8 inches, so it's a little bit larger. I was trying one out. It was kind of a cheap one, not the cheapest, but kind of a cheap one. It had a little bit of a lag, so when I was watching myself, it was kind of weird because it was lagging. It was a little bit confusing, so I had to kind of ignore it or train my brain to just kind of ignore it. But you know, there's always more stuff that you want, but you have to balance it out, you know. This big light stand here with the wheels on it is really old. This is probably from the 1960s or 70s. It came with some strobe lights that I had for my studio setup, and I've discarded the lights, but the stand is great. It has wheels on it, so I use this in my basement studio. I can wheel it closer or further. And last winter I bought this Manfrotto Arm. This is really neat because you can adjust it all different ways. Those are arms. And then I have an accessory here. This is the Manfrotto Head that the shoe that goes on my Sony camera can go right here. So what I usually do in my little setup in the basement is put the camera on here, put the light there, and I can adjust it however I need to. And it makes a pretty neat little setup for me. I heard about this from watching the Craftsman channel. I almost bought a C-stand, and when I found this down in the basement, I was like, hey, I don't need to buy a C-stand. I've already got this light stand here with wheels on it. And what's really neat about these is there's air in there. So if you loosen it up, it won't just come flopping down. It'll come slowly. Thanks a lot for watching my video about YouTube equipment. Tune in the future. I'm going to have more videos. Here's that remote I was telling you about. Got my remote somewhere. One thing I don't use is an iPhone. More about equipment is you bobbity skimbody want. And one thing you have to look out for too is gear. Okay, there's the remote. We're going to stop.